Good morning, children. Today I'm going to explain the fourth chapter of your grammar lesson, that is pronouns. Before we go to the details of the chapter, children, you need to know what is a pronoun. A pronoun is a word that replaces a noun. For a word to be a pronoun, it must have a clear antecedent, which means the word for which a pronoun stands. In your previous classes, children, you must have studied about the types of pronouns: personal pronoun, possessive pronoun, reflexive pronoun, interrogative pronouns, demonstrative pronoun, indefinite pronouns, and relative pronoun, to name a few. Before we study about relative pronoun, which is the main focus of our study in the 8th standard, let us children quickly recap what we have studied in our previous classes. First, what is a personal pronoun? Personal pronouns are used for a specific object or person, and they change their forms to indicate the different genders like he, she, numbers, case, and person speaking. Example: I, we, me, you, they, them, etc. The word possessive pronouns tell us exactly what it seems like they should do. They are the pronouns that help us show possession or ownership in a sentence. Look at the examples: yours, mine, ours, his, hers, theirs, and its. You will notice, children, that in none of the words given in the examples the apostrophe is used. Reflexive pronouns are the words ending in self or selves that are used when the subject and object of a sentence are the same. Example: I believe in myself. Other examples of reflexive pronouns are myself, themselves, yourself, ourselves, herself, himself, and itself. Take a look at this example. Rosa was going to take it to the shop but ended up fixing it herself one afternoon. Here we can see that herself is being used to refer to Rosa again at the end of the sentence. The next kind of pronoun, children, is an interrogative pronoun. An interrogative pronoun is a pronoun which is used to make asking questions easy. There are just 5 interrogative pronouns. Each one is used to ask a very specific question or indirect question. Some, such as who and whom, refer only to people. Others can be used to refer to objects or people. What is used to ask questions about people or objects? Example: what do you want for dinner? Which is used to ask questions about people or objects. Example: which color do you prefer? Who is used to ask questions about people. The next kind of pronoun, children, are demonstrative pronouns. Demonstrative pronouns are used to show or identify one or a number of nouns that may be far or near in a distance or time. They are only 4 in number: this, that, these, and those. Look at these examples. That is a beautiful house. In this particular sentence, children, that refers to a house which is far. These were made by me. Everyone remembers those days. Those refer to the time that has gone by. This is what he is charging. Indefinite pronouns are the next kind of pronouns. Indefinite pronouns are used to show unspecified objects or people, whether in plural or in singular. They are used to indicate the entire noun or some of the noun or none of the noun. Some common indefinite nouns are anyone, someone, none, everything, many, few, etc. For example, if anyone has seen my notebook, please return it to me. A few of the members were not satisfied with the service. Here, children, a few of the members refers to some members. Nobody was answering when I called them last. Nobody refers to no one answering the call. The next kind of pronoun, children, is relative pronoun, which is the main focus of your study in the 8th standard. Relative pronouns are used to join or relate two different clauses, which is the subordinate clause and the main clause, together by referring to the noun in the previous clause using the pronouns who, whom, whose, which, and that, which are the examples of relative pronoun. I will explain about the uses of relative pronoun in detail. To understand the uses of relative pronouns, children, take a look at these sentences. The woman who was shouting was angry. What she told me isn't true. My garden, which is small, looks spacious. The girl whose brother is in my class is nice. The car that drove right past me was red. The man whom I sent a letter will help me. So, children, if we refer back to the sentences which I had shown you earlier, we will see that who, what, which, whose, that, and whom are all examples of relative pronouns. A relative pronoun can refer to a noun. Example, I knew the artist who made this painting. The relative pronoun who is referring to the artist, which is a noun. A pronoun, she can tell me nothing that will change my mind. A subordinate clause, he told us we could go home, which came as a surprise. In this sentence, children, he told us we could go home is the main clause and came as a surprise is the subordinate clause, which is referring to the subordinate clause came as a surprise. A main clause, I failed my exams, which I had not expected. In this particular sentence, children, which is referring to the main clause, I failed my exams. The word a relative pronoun refers to the antecedent. I had told you, children, what antecedent means. It is a word which the pronoun stands for. There was a man who was quite clever. Here who stands for man. She told us to leave, which was a shock. The part of the sentence that contains the relative pronoun is called a relative clause. Look at this example. There was a man who was quite clever. So you can see who is a relative pronoun. So who was quite clever is the part which contains the relative pronoun and therefore it is a relative clause. She told us to leave, which was a shock. So which was a shock is the relative clause. The relative pronoun who is used when the antecedent is a person. Example, her cousin who is 5 is learning to speak English. Here, the relative pronoun who refers to her cousin who is a person. My neighbors who are old complain a lot. The next relative pronoun which is used when the antecedent is not a person. Example, the bike which he forgot to lock was stolen. In this particular example, children, which is referring to the bike. She asked for help, which I found charming. To understand about the usage of that, we first need to understand, children, the meaning of non-restrictive relative clause and restrictive relative clause. Non-restrictive relative clause provides information that can be omitted. Look at the sentence. My Uncle Bob, who is a butcher, has a cat. In this particular sentence, if we remove the clause who is a butcher, then also the sentence makes sense. My Uncle Bob has a cat. So who is a butcher? This particular clause can be omitted. Restrictive relative clause provide information that can't be omitted. That means the information provided in restrictive relative clause is very, very important. The people who live here are lovely. Now, if we omit the particular information given in the sentence, who live here, then the sentence can be read as the people are lovely. So, it just speaks about people who are lovely. It is not being specific about the people who live here. Therefore, this particular information, who live here, cannot be omitted from the sentence. This is a house which is very old. In a restrictive relative clause, who and which can be replaced by that. The people who live here are lovely can be written as the people that live here are lovely. In a non-restrictive relative clause, who and which cannot be replaced by that. Therefore, my Uncle Bob, that is a butcher, has a cat, has been written incorrectly. When we use whose, we need to understand that whose is the possessive form of who. The man whose bike was green laughed at me. When we want to use who formally, we use whom. Whom can also be used in restrictive clauses only. Example, the doctor whom I told you about is friendly. We use what when there is no antecedent. What you see is unique. When she sees what you have made, she'll be speechless. What strikes me is that he didn't apologize are the examples of uses of what. I think, dear children, you have understood about the usage of relative pronouns. Thank you.